Alright, so I'm back with another update of the Sprint. Nothing's actually changed yet, but it's about to. We're about to take it down to the gas station. I'm going to go fill it, try not fill it up with gas, probably about halfway up or something like that, because I'm sitting right on E right now, and I want to make sure I'm not completely out of gas for after I get to the testing phase of this project. So, if you watched any of the videos before, you know how there was the carburetor troubles and the guy before couldn't get it back together. Well, I managed to get it back together, but had already ordered this new Datsun carburetor, which has a slightly different bolt pattern on it. So is what I decided to do is go ahead and change it out, because I do have the car running and whatnot now, but it's definitely not as smooth as I'd like it to be, and I'm sure not as reliable. I've heard lots of bad things about these carburetors, other than, or it's actually not a carburetor, it's a fuel injected throttle body, but it's pretty much a carburetor. So anyway, I got an actual carburetor that we're going to strap on here. But the thing is, the bolt patterns are just a hair too small. This is actually the original gasket and from the Sprint and the stock carburetor. This is a diagram I'm making of it when I was looking at making an actual spacer plate, which was one of my options, to have a spacer plate that basically be this right here, about, I don't know, a ½ inch thick or so, quarter-inch thick, and have recessed bolts down in it that would bolt the stamp from that down onto the top of the intake manifold, and then here, and here tap new holes, or have the machinist do it in that case, to set down studs and be able to place the new Datsun carburetor on top of it. And the barrels line up pretty good. They're just about spot on. It's just these mounting brackets are a little bit too small. But I started thinking about it, and I realized, looking at the top of the intake manifold, I actually have where these holes are right here, and they actually have the studs sticking up out of them, the 4 studs where you set the carburetor down and put bolts on the top of it, right? Well, you can take those out, actually. They do unscrew out, so I'm thinking I'm going to remove those. These bolt holes, I actually have the Datsun carburetor marked on the old gasket. You can't see this, but to get a rough idea, there's the back 2 there, and the stocks would obviously be there, and then over here it's about the same thing, right about like that. So, is what I'm thinking is, instead of having to go to a machinist and pay probably a pretty high dollar to have one of these little spacer plates made, I'm thinking is what I'm going to do. I'm not 100% sure yet. I'm going to tear it down as soon as we get home and start looking at the actual top of the intake manifold and see how much room I think I have. But I think I can just sit down, and instead of making the spacer plate, I can just take those 4 pins out, and as long as I mark the holes right, I can just drill and tap new holes to put the bolts down into, or the stud bolts anyway, and then be able to bolt down on top. So that's what's going on with it, though. Got the new Datsun carburetor, and it's super slick looking. I really like this thing. There's one other guy on YouTube who apparently did this, like, I don't know, it was like 5 or 8 years ago. It's been a while back, but he hasn't responded in years to anybody about any of this stuff, and there seem to be a lot of people interested in this. So that's why I kind of figured I'd record along with it, and specifically this swap, because like I said, I mean, these are really good cars, but they were really just a test phase, and so there were some minor bugs that were never fixed, mostly with the carburetor. That's pretty much the only issues that these things have, and I think that's why you actually happen to find a few of them every now and then that are in really decent condition like this, and the engine has reasonably low miles and stuff, is because the carburetor clogged, the fuel injected throttle body clogged up, and nobody knew how to fix it, so they just scrapped it. But anyway, we're going to take care of that. Yeah, I'm going to go get some gas real quick, come back, pull the hood off. I'm going to see if I can get some better lighting going on in here and whatnot too. But we'll pull off the air filter and whatnot again, take off the old carburetor. It should be fun. Pull all the hoses and whatnot. And see if we can probably get those bolts out too. And then I'll come back after I got a general idea of, if at that point I should know if this is the route I'm going to take, or if I am going to continue on and go to the machinist. But I'm pretty confident that this will work, and it'll really save me a lot of time and money. Plus, this gives me an excuse to buy a tap and die kit and a high-powered quarter drill. So, all good things all around. Anyway, though, so I'll get back to you here in a little bit. Let's see how it goes.